Waiting now for the boats to head out for the running of Heat 3B. We haven't been given a time. We don't know that we're on any kind of delay. We did move our time back 10 minutes for the running of 3A. And if that number were to hold, then 3B would go from 3:20 to about 3:30. And it would be coming up quickly here. We would have the countdown, the 1 to the 5 to the 5. We have boats in the water behind us. We can see the 27 Dalton Industries. That is the only boat in this heat that is currently in the water. So there is some work to be done to get the boats to get ready to go. It's going to be a few minutes, obviously. I'm guessing that the 3:30 start time is going to go by the boards. We have only one of the boats scheduled to go out of the 4 drawn into Heat 3B. We do see the 27 Dalton Industries Cal Phipps at the finger pier down below us. J. Michael Kelly's boat is on the trailer, the crane just now going toward it. That same crane will be lifting the 21 all-access rentals out onto the water. And it looks like they're going to take that one first. So there's going to be a few minutes here. We got to put the 21 in the water, then swing over and get the 5 with the same crane. Miss Carstar, Kevin Ekrit, is down at the other end with the 100, and he is not off the trailer yet. There were
Jesse, Jimmy, and of course Steve David.
And Ted Porter.
You got it.
As well. You, young man, in all your years covering this sport, you were the public relations guy before I was, and following the sport for many, many years. I'd never been to San Diego.
No, I haven't, and it's been, interesting. But what's interesting now, I think, Steve, is when you're taking a look at how the teams have had to talk to each other, and I mean, explaining what's going on, because when Jesse was out in front there, he really put the onus on Jimmy King. Jimmy had nowhere to go from lane 1, and he was out there so far in advance. You've seen this happen before when these type of teams have these type of issues. How do they talk about it? What do they tell the drivers?
Well, Steve David, of course, was on the air with me at the time, and he told us that he was going to go have a talk with young Mr. Roberts. And this has happened before. We had a similar situation in Seattle where Jesse was way over the line early, and there was talk then about maybe he was blocking for his teammate or something to that effect. And they said, no, we just blew the start. Well, I'm afraid he's being spoken to about that particular problem right now. And when Steve gets back, we can find out what the response was. In the meantime, the 21 came off the trailer, and all access rentals, Brian Perkins, getting aboard that boat. They'll have to come back with that same crane to pick up the Graham trucking. For the first time all weekend, we don't have Jimmy Shane and J. Michael Kelly racing each other. I'm sure that's a bit of a relief for Kelly. Now that there's no possibility he's going to catch Jimmy Shane in the points, might as well go out and win a heat, huh?
Well, it's going to be interesting because, J. Michael, yesterday ended up with a lot of water in the boat. And when you saw the boat come in, the water was just pouring out. And as it turned out, I was talking to the team, and they figured that there was almost 200 pounds of water that was literally coming out of the boat. And Shane never realized when Kelly never realized when he was driving all the issues that he was having because of that problem in the back. So they have fixed it. They ran some hot laps. I think it's going to be interesting to see how everything is going to go.
I have not been down off the tower to get a close look at Kelly's boat. Have you heard anything about how the repair is holding?
The repair is holding extremely well. I know Kay has been down there taking a look at it, and I think Jay Michael, with the type of heat that he's been running, all he needs to do right now, that's going to be the big one, is going to be on the start. But what's really interesting is I think, what's great about what's happened this season is you've had at least 3 boats all the time with Jean Theoret, and of course the Graham Trucking with Jimmy, with J. Michael Kelly, and then Jimmy Shane and the Oberto. And today, the interesting thing is that Cal Phipps and the Dalton Industries boat has now improved to a way that they're going to be competitive. And as you heard about, as Jimmy Shane was talking, Scott Liddycoat now on the 9 has really become a competitive issue for this race. So Jimmy Shane, though he has the National High Point Championship, sure doesn't think he's got this Bayfair regatta locked up, because he's got a lot of competition coming for the final.
Right down below us, Brian Perkins is getting aboard the All Access U-21. He looked like a world beater in one of his heats yesterday as well. That boat running really well.
Yeah, the All Access rental, the sentimental favorite. Jeff Johnson, of course, as you probably mentioned, passing away. And All Access Rentals, is he and Kevin Aylesworth owned the boat prior to this, and it's kind of neat that they're coming down. But Perkins is having a good season. They've done a lot to fight this battle of getting this boat back in after the problems that they had 1 year ago. They barely got it into the Gold Cup, and the team has done a heck of a job. It's truly the sentimental favorite here in San Diego, since All Access Rentals is a San Diego company.
Here comes the 100 off the trailer now down the way. So they're going to at least make an attempt to get into this heat. You know who can't catch a break is Ed Cooper and Jimmy King.
No, they can't. And that discussion that they were having down there, I think, was just about that, because, there was no way that Jimmy was going to be able to find any clean water to get a clean start. Jesse was out in front of him, and that discussion, that was one of the longer discussions I have seen on a dock, some time.
We were really worried about it going into the first turn, because you have 4 boats basically side by side in lanes 1, 2, 3, and 4, and up ahead of them there's another boat in lane 1, so everybody is going to have to move to the right, and that doesn't always work very well.
No, it doesn't. And then, how much room do you have? Where is that lane 2? And the other thing is, if you're taking a look, you're in lane 2 and Jimmy's in lane 1, how far can he push him out? And, at that time you have to have the entire fleet move to the outside, which is almost impossible at that point, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to hold your lane and everybody's hit their timing marks.
And it wasn't the first time this weekend that Jimmy King, the odd man out when it came to there just weren't enough lanes for everybody, and that's the reason for their low point total right now. It looks like they will not be in the final heat, and that's a shame, because a lot of fans of that team, and it's been great to have them back in the sport. If they could catch a break, we know from qualifying they can run with anybody out here.
Well, they definitely can, and I think that the difference between a reciprocating engine and a turbine engine, as you know, and to explain to the fans, is that off the corners, really the turbines are a little bit quicker, right? And they can keep their RPMs. But down the straight, that U3 and the Allison Power's got more power than those turbines do. So it can run, and I would love to see that boat go head-to-head. We have not had that real opportunity to see that since the U3 has come back.
I remember being here many years ago when Mitch Evans was still driving for that team, and it was revolutionary because this boat was built so much lighter than the piston boats of the old days. Ed Cooper brought it here. Mitch Evans was driving. He ran a 150-plus mile per hour qualifying lap, and we were stunned that a piston-powered boat had run a lap like that. I mean, if you put that boat back in the day with the boats that Muncie and Chenoweth and all those guys drove, he would be smoking them with basically the same engine.
Well, it's something, Ed Cooper and his team, out of, Indiana have done an unbelievable job in keeping that boat competitive, despite the fact that it hasn't been in the water for a number of years. And, Jimmy is one heck of a driver. As we saw, he won the Grand Prix event, in Detroit, and the guy can drive the boat, and he's just done an unbelievable job of that. Now you take a look at the Graham Trucking going in, and right there on the back wing, you can see a little bit of, I'm going to call it just Bondo at that time. It was underneath the wing area. So as the boat is coming around, and you'll take a look right down there, you can really take a close look and see the issues, with that boat and the problems that they have with it. And, this, by the way, was, one of those things that happens so infrequently. or has it ever hit, when it got hit on a truck stop by a trailer truck. And, you can take a look right there as you're seeing the turbine engine in, and they're going to that one area right there where the right wing is. That is where the problem with the boat is on the outside. And what happened yesterday, there was a hole in that boat. And the water was literally pouring out when the boat was being pulled up. And so, as I pointed out earlier, J. Michael Kelly had no idea that was an issue at that point. And they had to work all night getting that thing ready. And, they've done one heck of a job. J. Michael feels comfortable, by the way the boat is running today, okay? He really feels comfortable. He did have a little bit of a problem there, as the boats kind of bounced in the start, and he got a little bit washed down. But, right now in his last preliminary heat, and when he got out of it, he told me he feels good about the boat. He feels good about running in the championship final. But, again, he's got to finish this heat to make sure he can get in it.
They keep dressing up the Bondo with red tape.
Yes,
in
they
fact,
do.
They even took some black tape there and kind of continue the design of the boat. And they've had to do that every heat because there's no way the tape stays on it.
Well, it's kind of funny. But even with the way that the saltwater, if you see on the All Access Rentals where it says Urbane Cafe, they've even had to take the black magic marker to make sure that the black stays in there so it would be able to be seen by the fans due to the sponsorship. But, when you take a look at the boat sitting in the water, you got the Dalton Industries boat there and Kevin Ekrit across there next to him. Ekrit has won one heat this year. Cal Phipps has done a great job with this Dalton Industry boat. And I'm going to tell you, we're getting about 6 minutes away to this.
That was 1 to the 5 to the 5.
So that's 11 minutes.
So do the math. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 11 minutes to the start. We see in our picture some the Grand Prix coming in, and they will be racing right after this unlimited prelim. The last of our prelim, but I started to ask you earlier, your first impressions after all these years of hearing about but never seeing this event. Is this something special or what?
This is extremely special. The view is just unbelievable. I love, you've got a few of the boats in the background there that are sitting there. It's not a big fleet. I think what's really beautiful about this area is when you take a look at it, you've got SeaWorld and the trams going back and forth on one side, but the other side of the course is absolutely fantastic, just absolutely great. I'm wondering if we're going to get Steve David back up here or if I'm going to end up doing the color commentary for you. He's still talking with Ted Porter there, the owner of the Graham Trucking Boat, as they go back and forth about what happened in Heat 3A.
Well, stand by just in case, okay?
We'll do that, yeah.
You probably haven't had a chance to go up to the beach, have you?
No. And now we get a chance to see this, and this is what is absolutely gorgeous. When you're here, the entire, it's the hillside and the houses that are out there. It's just a beautiful situation and a beautiful setting. And what's also, and Steve, you can talk more about, this is the fastest race course on the circuit, not only because of the saltwater, but just take a look at the way the water lays down. And I think, you just got enough lift out there to get the boats going. The saltwater keeps the boat a little bit more buoyant so it can be a little bit faster. But it's just a gorgeous view. And
it's actually a little bit treacherous because of this. Normally when you have wind, you have really rough water.
Right.
So the drivers know that they have to be very careful. Here, you can have wind and smooth water, but you remember the famous photo of the two boats going over together? Right. That was taken right out here. Right at the end of this island, Bruce, off to your left, there's a bridge that goes over onto the mainland. And right at that point, the wind comes under that bridge, kind of a Venturi effect, and the drivers really have to be careful right there.
Well, it's you can see it just above what is called the Bill Muncie Memorial, which looks like a tail over there, and just there is where that Venturi goes through. I'm going to let Steve David call the rest of this thing because he can tell you a little bit about what his discussion was all about.
We'll let you get back to work online. Thank you, Bruce Motti, Public Relations Director now for H1 Unlimited, and Steve David comes back, and let me look if he's smiling. Yeah? Everything, was that a heated conversation? Was everybody nodding their head?
Well, if you watch NASCAR, they say report to the NASCAR hauler, so we just had a little discussion in the H1 test truck, and there was some fines and some serious penalties and a good discussion, and Jesse's a good kid. I know he's a good driver. It's just the mess-ups have been frequently, so we had a good talk to him. And Brian Haney, the chief referee, will be with me before the final. More than likely, we're going to have to tell him what lane to start in the final so it doesn't mess up the outcome. The problem has been that his mess-ups have affected the outcome of other boats that could have been very competitive. and possibly affect safety and equipment. We can't let that happen. So he's got to learn to improve, and I think he will as a driver. He listens. He's not arguing. He wants to do better. But in Unlimited, because of the size and the speed, situational awareness is critical. You got to know where the other boats are. You got to have your timing marks down. You jump the gun by half a second. That's just racing. But it's been a couple of times where this has happened, and in that particular heat, that could have been a heck of a race between Home Street Bank, the 9, and the 1, and by what he did, it changed significantly the outcome of that heat.
Bruce and I were talking about the fact that you have 4 guys making a good start, and they're in lanes 1, 2, 3, and 4. If there's a boat up ahead of them in lane 1, there are going to be problems in the first turn. Unfortunately, this time, the odd man out again was Jimmy King, who's been a victim before.
Yeah.
And it probably cost him a spot in the final heat.
Yeah, and again, Jesse's a good guy. Graham Trucking, phenomenal sponsor, and the kid's going to get better in time. He's just got to get more aware of that situational awareness, as we call it, in an unlimited hydroplane.
But let me ask you this. The driver is not all alone in this timing situation. He has a radio man on the headset with him who is also supposed to know the timing points on the race course and where the driver should be.
And apparently what they were telling him is, you're off, so go around. So what he could have done is, at the point that, let's say you're, Steve, near you and I approaching this turn 2, when you know your way early, accelerate real quick, go around the course, cut through where it's legal after the center island, and grab a lane again and make a start with everybody legitimate. That's what you should have done. Problem is, as a new driver, or if folks are not aware of telling you to do that, you're not sure if you can do it. Well, the fact is you can. So you got to make sure, one, you understand the rule book, and as apparently as radio guys were saying, cut through the course, cut through the course, cut through the course. Possibly radio failure, but they were saying the right thing. So had a good conversation with him. Ted Porter was a gentleman as always. Said, Steve, our fault, and we won a race, so what can we do? So Brian will have a final discussion.
Great young man. He's been fun to work with. He's been a great driver in other classes. He's had, actually, a pretty good history in Unlimiteds. Way back when he was driving for Mark Evans, we were impressed with the job he did in Coeur d'Alene shortly after he qualified. So he'll be back and he'll have better days. And
he will.
And I know this for a fact, that guys like you will be there to help him along.
I'm delighted to mentor him. Unfortunately, I guess it's like in school sometimes the teachers got to, well, in the old days, paddle the kid, and we just did that. But he is a gentleman. Ted Porter, outstanding racer, and these things happen. But we as a sport have to make sure that we're doing the right thing with keeping the sport safe, keeping it fast, and allowing the race boats to race. So better days ahead for Jesse. This is just one of those days where you're kind of in the drama.
We had the 5 to the 5, or is this it? This is the 5-minute gun. 2, 1, mark. 5 minutes. Turbine spooling up behind us. You are looking at the tail end, the business end of the 21. Isn't that a great shot?
Boy, and again, as we spoke earlier, Steve, there is no neutral in these boats. When you start spooling up the turbine, what happens is, this is not a thrust jet. This is a helicopter engine, which normally is turning rotors. So what happens is you're spinning the compressor side and the front side of the engine, compressing the air into the back section, igniters igniting the fuel, you get that explosion sound. Once the engine gets to what's called about ground idle, or 48% of power, the propeller starts to spin, and after that, it's let it go. But there's no neutral, there's no reverse.
Why not put a clutch in the thing? Wouldn't that make it easier?
They tried, Steve, initially when turbines started getting introduced to sport sometime in the 70s, they tried it, but the clutches couldn't take the torque, and they're burning out clutches. So then we just went with direct drive, and they're fairly bulletproof now.
We have 1, 2, 3 rooster tails on the water. Here comes the 4th boat out behind us right now. That's Kevin Ekert in the 100, Miss Car Stars. We mentioned a couple of sponsors who came on board this year, liked what they saw, and came with us to San Diego. Certainly the Car Stars folks in that family, I think they're really enjoying their time here with Stacy Briseno and the 100 team.
The Car Star, a wonderful group of people. And
if you can't have fun with Ben, you can't have fun.
You can't have fun with anybody. Ben Rice, Stacy, the driver, Car Stars, great team. And again, one of our most improved teams this year. They've started and finished every heat. Today they ran a 144 lap. They're getting better and better. Watch for next year. A little more injection of money with the good folks at Car Stars, and that 100 is going to be a front runner. They got the driver, they got the crew chief, and they got the owner to make it happen.
Those Leland hulls have a lot of water under the transom. They are getting old, but they are still capable of running hard and fast if they are well powered, good equipment, good hardware, and so on.
Oh, Steve, for 20-something years, Leland hulls have won Gold Cups, national championships, set records. Great boats, well built.
J. Michael Kelly coming by our tower here in the Graham Trucking. Right behind him, Cal Phipps. That'll be an interesting boat to watch here. Love the paint job on Cal's boat. We call that aging announcer orange on the sponsons.
It's vinyl, and you're used to wraps on cars. Well, that's a wrap on a boat, and that's thanks to Dalton Industries and the Tolliver family that are behind that boat. And again, Dalton Industries named after the daughter Dalton. Pretty soon she's going to be Dr. Dalton Oliver.
One of the many things that Cal and family, the Wiggins family, have done right since taking over this operation from Nate Brown and John O'Brien and Our Gang Racing up in Preston, Washington. They've really done just a super job to go from not being in the sport last year to one of the front runners now. I think that's tremendous. They got to be the team of the year.
Absolutely, Steve. And again, I've raced with these guys forever. And you knew they were going to come out seeking a championship. And this is just their first year. They made a commitment yesterday to race again with us next year and elevate the program again. So, again, thanks to the Wiggins for becoming a new owner of the sport, and thanks to Dalton Industries to help financially make this thing go as fast as it's going.
Haven't mentioned Brian Perkins. We saw his boat there a moment ago. Because of the penalty yesterday, it's moved him from first way back to fifth. He needs to win this heat to have any chance of making the final.
Yeah,
so
Steve,
that'll be another boat to watch.
Yeah, and in this final, you got 6 boats on the front line, 1 behind. We have had a boat win from what's called the trader position, but reality in saltwater, you want to be on that front line. I think probably a couple of them have gotten some 5-second warnings.
One of them was on the 21. His strobe came on.
And when that happens, you got 5 seconds to pick it up and don't drop below 80. So you got the warning, that's okay, but you can't get a second one because then you have a 1-lap penalty.
Now they're turning toward us. We want to listen for the 1-minute countdown and see where we are on the backstretch. We cannot be past the score up. Boy, is that the double orange right here before the...
Yeah, the double orange across... looks like they're great, because as long as you're across from there, Steve, at 60 to 65 seconds, you can run 80.
3, 2, 1. So we're good on the score. Up, no problem there.
Now, you don't want to pick up your speed yet, because at 80 miles an hour, if you go 80 from there on, you're going to make a good start. So if you're going to pick it up, you got to make sure you're also backing down.
Now, look at this. We're going to have Cal Phipps or Brian Perkins. We can't tell which one. It's a white boat over in lane 1. J. Michael Kelly is in lane 2. Phipps is out in 3. I can see the orange. So Brian Perkins is going to have lane 1. We said he had to win this heat. He's put himself in position to do that. Kelly is back a long way.
Yeah, these guys are early up here, Steve, because you really want to be at that exit at about 11 seconds if we're correct on what we're looking at. This is not an official time on our clock. 25 seconds is way too early to be up there. It looks like the 27 and the 5 have a perfect time. Now, if you know you're this early, by the way, and you're perky up there, hammer it, get around, go through the course, and get yourself a good start.
Another strobe warning, so we've had a couple of those. We didn't hear the countdown to the start.
Yeah, 21's going to jump the gun.
4, 3, 2, 1. Mark, I'm sure Brian Perkins got there too early, and if he didn't, he had his tail way down.
He would have gotten that second warning, and that would have been a 1-lap penalty.
J. Michael Kelly went flying by him in lane 2, so he's the leader. The 21 jumped the gun. It's official. And J. Michael Kelly, look at that rooster tail. Boy, he has the 5 running now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think they might have put in a final setup to see what they've got for the final, and you're seeing that right now. Shame with Brian, man. He's got the speed to do it. Bugs kick in, you get upset, what have you, but that would have been a time when you know you're that early, kick it up, go around the island, get a lane again, and make a legitimate start.
Now J. Michael Kelly coming at us on the backstretch. Cal Phipps is coming with him. J. Michael is not out there alone. Cal Phipps is on his hip. Coming into the turn, Kelly leans it over to the right on the skid fin. Has a little bit of a lead now, about a half a rooster tail on Cal Phipps. Kevin Ekrit comes by.
Look at him running. The 100 is running strong with the 21.
Look at the red, white, and blue boat go. We're going to have a good race for third here between Kevin Ekrit and Brian Perkins. Perkins moves up now a little bit on Ekrit as they come off the corner. Our leaders are finishing lap 1 down into the turn. J. Michael Kelly now can move over into lane 1. He has Cal Phipps on his right, and he hasn't really gained on him. Cal is right about where he was last time.
He's about 5 lengths behind Steve going through the turn. What will happen on the 21 now if he finishes 4th? It's 169 points. He needs to have enough points to be in the top 6. He still has a chance to make the front line of the final, but this definitely hurt.
Coming right toward us, look at this incredible shot. Look at that boat walk on the water. The 5 Graham Trucking, Cal Phipps, right beside him. Look at the 2 boats are in your picture now, if you have a wide screen, which I hope you do. J. Michael Kelly into turn 2 for the second time. Cal Phipps maybe 1 more boat length behind than he was last time.
And Steve, that's the difference between lane 1 and lane 2. Chances are the 27 Dalton boat has a little more top end, but because you're running a longer course, you need at least 5 miles an hour ET, elapsed time, to get around the inside outside boat. So Jay Michael's a sharp driver, keeps it clean, keeps it ahead. It's his to win. He picks up 400 points and moves towards the final.
Brian Perkins only had 402 points coming into this heat, so I don't know that third place is going to work for him. We'll see how this shakes out. We're on our final lap, Steve David, our final preliminary of the 2015 season, and J. Michael Kelly has it all going his way. Cal Phipps still within a rooster tail, but he has dropped back now a little bit more.
And Steve, in Cal's situation, when you know the guy's got you covered and you know you got a final heat coming up, you'll backpedal a little bit, save it. At this point, you know you're not going to win, so you save the engine for the final. The 21, by the way, is actually in fourth with that one-lap penalty.
The great thing for J. Michael Kelly is that he is finding out right now he's got a race boat. Huh?
He does, and that's what you need. You got to build that confidence back up again. The team, as they always do, the Porter team, sponsored by Graham Trucking, knows how to pull it out of the truck and make the thing run again.
So
21,
Brian
Steve,
Perkins third on the water, fourth officially.
Yep, 169 points is fourth. Third would have been 300 points, so we'll have to see where he stands on the points ladder. We'll have the draw about 10 minutes after this heat is finished and then get ready for the final heat.
Kevin Ekert had 420 points. He's going to finish third here. By the way, Kelly got the checkered flag while we were talking, went across the start-finish line. Third place point for Kevin Ekert. He could be in the final.
I believe he is going to be in the final. If we take a look at the boats this far that we know have made the final, I think the 100 has made the final. Car Stars, great job. Thank you for the help helping that boat because you've given him some speed.
899 for Cal Phipps, so I'm sure he's in the final with nearly 900 points. The total for Kevin Ekert is 705, so we're going to have to look back and see what happens to him based on the guys that ran in Heat 3A.
Yeah, and there's going to be a point deduction on the 7 for that fine from the last heat, so we'll have to see how that affects their total count as well.
Now here are the points. Debbie has them totaled up, Steve, and we can see if we look back at the previous heat, there was obviously no doubt that Jimmy Shane was going to make the final. Shane has 1,300 points. Jimmy King 764, then 965 for Scott Liddycoat. We know that those three are probably in the final. 1060 for J. Michael Kelly, 899 for Cal Phipps, no problem there. Let's see, 705 for Ekert.
He's made the final.
Wow, how about that? Jesse Robertson with 626 is next in line.
However, I think with that point deduction, I think the points are actually made today before going to the final. Might knock Jesse out of the final. Got to get with my official, Steve, and figure out where we are on this. So if you'll excuse me for a few minutes.
Were there any points deducted in your discussion just now, or was that?
Yes, there were, and we don't know. I've got to verify whether or not those points are taken off for today or if they're for national points. If they're for today, it doesn't look like the 7's going to make the final heat. I'm going to get with my officials right now, Steve, and get back to you.
Well, Debbie, let's presume that our points are correct, okay, and they're not going to deduct anybody. We can put first place for Jimmy Shane with 1,300, right? And then we go to 965. Is that second? No, it'd be J. Michael Kelly. Put a 2 there for second place. Okay, and a 1 over here for Jimmy Shane. Kelly with 1060 is in second place. Third is the 965 for Scott Liddycoat. Fourth is 899 for the Dalton Industries. Cal Phipps in the 27. Fifth place is Jimmy King. Is it really? In the 3 Home Street Bank. Well, good. All that didn't bother him as much as we thought it might. 764 points apparently puts Jimmy King fifth, and Kevin Ekert in the Car Star is sixth with 571. Look at this. We have Jimmy King making the final, Steve David, with 764 points. So here we go, Chief, Mr. Chairman. First place with 1,300, Jimmy Shane. Second place with 1060 is J. Michael Kelly. Third place, 965 for Scott Liddycoat.
In the 811 dig, and after yesterday, what a comeback.
Fourth place for Cal Phipps in the 27 Dalton Industries. We've just talked about 4 boats that could win this thing.
Absolutely.
By the way, our fifth place boat is Jimmy King.
Home
He
Street
gets
Bank.
another shot
Sure
with
thing.
764 points. Good for him. Sixth place. How about Kevin Ekert in the 100?
Made the final on the front line. That is huge for that team.
So we have 6 in the front line and a trailer.
Correct, a trailer position.
So next after the 705 would be, is it Tom Thompson or is it Brian 571? It's Brian Perkins.
Brian Perkins, All Access Rentals. Now, what does it mean when you're the trailer? You're starting 5 seconds or basically 1 rooster tail behind. What happens is the 7's points, their penalty, deduct from today's points, and that affected their ability to be the trailer boat.
So they do not actually have 626?
Correct. You take 250 off of that, and that's the points that they have on the day.
You got to subtract 250 from 7, whatever it was.
626.
We got J. Michael Kelly down here. J. Michael, your team's been working hard. You just worked hard for them on that heat.
Yeah, finally, these guys been working their tails off, just trying to find any ounce of speed we could get. And, we're just throwing things at it now, just that we don't even know. So that seemed to work, that combination. I can't say enough about these Graham Trucking guys and, the dedication they have. They're the reason I'm out there, and just grateful I was able to go out and get a heat win for those guys. We beat a fast boat with Cal Phipps in that 2017. But we got one more heat to go, the final, and Graham Trucking is in there, and we're going to do what everybody else is going to do, and that's go out and try to win this thing.
Well, we know that winning takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of crew. It takes a lot of boat. It also takes a really good prop. Who might be your personal prop man?
I would say that is the famous Scott Baker. That guy is an absolute machine. I think he's been coming down in the pits at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, grinding on things. And, can't say enough about that guy. We're truly blessed to have him on the team. And, we're gonna continue to get better and faster, and, it's just a matter of time.
All right, well, you better keep him in the hauler, away from all these other drivers. I have a feeling that with that hot lap, they're going to be coming after him.
Just want to say thank you to Graham Trucking, of course, all the fans here, everybody that put on this event. Love coming to San Diego, and I know the rest of these guys here in the pits do too. So thank you very much, and let's all hope for an amazing final.
All right, J. Michael, we'll see you in the final here shortly.
And the bottom line, Steve David, is he just found out for sure that he has a race boat that probably can compete here in the final. We could see another one of those deck-to-deck jobs between Jimmy Shane and J. Michael Kelly. To clarify the point situation now, the deduction that you gave us on the 7, Jesse Robertson, knocks him out of the trailer boat position.
Correct.
And puts Brian Perkins in it. Sometimes drivers' teams opt not to run as the trailer boat. I don't think that'll be the case here with everything the 21 team has been through in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's true, Stephen. And by the way, they talk about Scott Baker. Scott used to work, I think maybe still does, with Herring Propellers. We used to race those propellers in the offshore days when I drove for the Fountain Factory offshore team. Great guy, known him a long time, and that kid knows propellers.
Here's a countdown for the Grand Prix final.
Steve, I'm going to have you cover this. I've got to run down, meet with my officials, and make sure everything is copacetic on this final. Great working with you. I'll be back with you in about 15 minutes, Steve.
Okay, we'll see you for the unlimited final. If you see Kay down there, tell her to get up here and take your seat, okay?